Thank you, Johan. I prefer English in this case, and thank you for organizing this with us. And we are very happy to be here and introduce the Finnish approach to cybersecurity. And actually, the structure of this day was that now we know the challenge, and we know that this is a global challenge. And of course, it would be easy if we could have a global solution. But practically, it's very difficult to have a global solution in a short run. So that's why, in our understanding, the best way to have a global solution is to start from the national level, to build cyber resilience to the national level. And as it was said in the previous panel, if we have less and less white spots at the global scale, then the cyber space is much more secure. And just to in a way, with one sentence, to say how Finland is looking cyber, it is an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. You can't build a welfare state without having a well-functioning cyber domain. But at the same time, you can't do it without having security. So it's an opportunity, but there is a must. You have to create the security. And I think this is the logic which the speakers are going to address in this panel. And I try to moderate it, and we try to also make interaction that you can put questions. If you have immediate reactions and questions, I'm happy to take them, and the speakers are happy to answer them. And of course, I'm very happy to have so impressive, good Finnish panel here in Geneva. It's perhaps first time in the history in Geneva to have such kind of Finnish panel. And the first speaker will be Arto Räty, Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Defense. But he is also having other hat. He is the chairman of the Security Committee in Finland. And that's something, one of the first lessons, if you want to build a national cyber capacity. You must select who is the coordinator, which body is coordinating the preparedness of the country. And it happens to be, in our case, the Security Committee. They are in charge of the strategies. They are assisting the government. They are giving advice to the government on security matters. And now this is the hat Arto is using here. And I don't want to read his long CV. Just mention that, of course, he is naturally, of course, a three-star general and things like that. But I don't go to the details. We concentrate on the cyber today. Arto, you have the floor.
Thank you, Aapo, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here today. Aapo have seen my slides. You will see it soon because he stole already a couple of my first slides, but it doesn't matter. That's normal. I would not like to talk about the Finnish model. I would more like to talk about Finnish approach to cyber defense because we don't have a model which is established somewhere. And there's a risk if I say a model, then you will ask me where is the model described, where is the picture of the model, and how does it look like, how does it function. But I'd rather speak about the approach because the approach is very important here. The morning session was for me excellent session, a learning process. It's just added to my confusion concerning cyber security and cyber domain, which is really complicated. And I think Aapo mentioned one of the key issues already in the beginning. That is that we have seen that, yes, there's a lot of international work ongoing. Yes, there's a lot of actors in the international forum trying to develop norms and standards and procedures and maybe laws also concerning cybersecurity. But it's not enough. And it's so complicated it will take too long time for a nation to wait the solution to come from outside, so we have to do it by ourselves. And I'm not going to go into the details of the threat picture or risks in the world, but I just mention one thing. When we do national cybersecurity, the risks are global, and they come from the global arena. And one issue I wrote down this morning was that I have to think about it more carefully, because in today's world, a major cyber attack can be outsourced. And even the response can be somewhat outsourced. And that is something for a nation state to consider carefully and think about it. I mean, this is not a small thing. When we talk about the money, I mean, if you look at the McAfee numbers, they are huge. And if you look at on a national level, they're also huge. So we are talking about major issues. This is only about cybercrime. As a nation player, as a Security Committee chairman, I'm looking at those risks and threats which are endangering our nation and the vital functions of our nation. Not exactly cybercrime. That's only one slice of the cake. And the governments are now being targeted. And cyber espionage is one of the issues which is in the rise at the moment. That's definitely the issue, not only in business life, but also in the governmental business and international politics. This is the one Arto saw earlier, so he stole it immediately. But you know, that's one of the key issues when we started the process. We said to ourselves that we cannot be a successful, competitive welfare state without a cyber domain which is functioning and secure. And that is the fundamental issue also for the political decision makers to understand. What is our security approach? That is a comprehensive approach. It's a puzzle, and the puzzle can be put together in a way that one piece may be one individual, the second piece may be one company, the third piece may be one of the administrative bodies in the government, and then comes to political life and the nation. So we see the security in Finland to be always a package of a lot of players, and so it is also in cyber domain. And this is why do we have this kind of approach? Since the Second World War, we have been building our national security in a comprehensive way. The reason is that we are small, and we have always seen that we can never handle any kind of mini or major crisis. Is it military, civilian, is it nowadays cyber? By one sector of society, we always need support from the others. And this kind of thinking has been there for decades. And this is the thinking behind the Security Committee and how we do our national security. And we have tried to implement the same approach to our cybersecurity. If you look at how we do the management in Finland, it's normal. I mean, there's nothing sexy or different in this picture compared to the other nations. But there's something I would like to underline, which is that we don't change the structure when the crisis occurs. We have to use the same bodies, same procedures, same methods, same people, same tools when the crisis comes. It's not like in the Cold War period when we had everything in the basement, standing ready for the action. Nowadays, if you want to act, you need to act with the tools every single day. We have a clear governmental structure, and this also is one part of the comprehensive approach. The major body in the governmental level is the government's cabinet committee for foreign and security policy, which always meets together with the president. That is the starting point for our national strategy work also. Then we have these interministerial cooperation bodies. One of them is the Security Committee. Then we have the Chief of the Readiness, the Chief of the Readiness Secretaries, and we have several other bodies which are bringing the governmental actors together. And they are planning for different kind of crises. One issue also to mention here is that in Finland, the authority is not in the bodies which are intergovernmental. The authority lies in the hands of the ministries and authorities below them. So the normal decision-making process is also implemented in crisis management. What is the task of the Security Committee? You can see it from this slide, but it's mainly to keep people aware, look at the situation around us in Finland, make analysis, support the government in strategic planning when it comes to national security. And one of the issues is the cybersecurity strategy, which has been coordinated by this body. As a chairman, I don't have any executive powers. I cannot give any orders to any ministries, which is maybe surprising. The only power I have in my hands is the bad conscience I can create. And it seems to be working well, at least in Finland, when Finns are very pragmatic people and don't talk too much, they want to act. So if they have not acted correctly, the bad conscience usually works, and you know, around the table we have all the permanent secretaries from different ministries and state secretaries who are working in the same position. The cabinet from the chief of the cabinet from the president. We have all the security authorities leaders, being police, rescue forces, border guard, customs, defense forces. They're all included in the same body, plus industry, plus NGOs when needed. So it's a very comprehensive body to work. That helps the approach. When you look at the cybersecurity strategy vision, it is very ambitious. But there are 2 points before the ambitious number of years, and the date by 16, we are supposed to be the global forerunner. It's not too much time for that. So we need to be that already today if we want to achieve this kind of goal. But first of all, our vision is that we can secure that we can secure our vital functions against cyber threats in all situations. That's one of the issues. Vital functions are listed around the diamond. One of them is management of the government affairs. How the government can lead the nation. We need to have the tools always in our hands. One of them is international security, one of them is our defense capability. Our defense cannot operate if they don't have a secure cyber domain in the defense side. And for these actions, for these functions, we have now tried to create a strategy on the cyber domain, how to make sure that all these function. Of course, we have to make sure that our public, our business life, our different actors in the society have a good basis for their work in the cyber domain. And the other way, that they can also benefit from the security by creating business from that one. And we have 2 examples here on the table today. So this is the vision where we're going. We have in our strategic paper 10 security guidelines. I only take 2 of them out of here. One of them is the collaboration model, which is the cooperation, which then includes all the stakeholders around the same table to talk about cybersecurity. That's very important issue, and that's one of the major issues in our thinking. The second one is education and training, and I would like to underline that a lot. Without proper education, without the involvement of your universities and other educational levels, you don't create national cybersecurity and you don't create knowledge and capabilities in the country. So that's extremely important. One is also legislation. I will talk about that later. It's a very complicated area, as you all understand. One of the issues when we started the process, when actually Arto started the process, he was one of the drivers in the car called Cyber Strategy in Finland, and driving fast like the Finnish rally drivers usually do. We said that, okay, we will never be able to build a national cyber command like US or other major nations do have. We will never be able to gather together the knowledge and capability which we need to handle the issue. So how can we do this? So the only way we found out to do this is to use the existing capabilities in our society, in the private sector, in the universities, in the governmental actors, and network them together. And this also gives us one of the great benefits, because the development does not take place in the governmental actors usually, sorry to say. It takes place in the private sector. And this allows us to benefit from the development in different private enterprises. Every day new issues are coming up, and by this network we can utilize this capability. The second one was situational awareness. We realized that without a national situational awareness, you cannot create national cybersecurity. So that was the other big issue for us. And all the others are natural. I mean, police, cyber defense, what we need for our service models and how to monitor our implementation. These are the guidelines we had there in our cyber strategy. Roadmap, in brief, we started 2010. It took us 1 year to make background study, 1 year to write the actual strategic paper. So 2013, January, we were ready with the paper, with the background memo. The background memo was important because the strategy itself is very short. And the shorter it is, the better it is usually, because it means that you have understood what you are doing. If you have 200 pages strategy paper, it doesn't work. 10 pages is much better. Then you have understood the main issues in your paper. But then you need some background information, and we brought this background memo which covers the vital functions of the society. We also have now we have started the process, and actually we have introduced the first draft of our implementation plan. Action items and cybersecurity tasks are listed there. And then now we are trying to implement it. And strategic thinking is beautiful. Writing papers is even more beautiful. But the beauty actually lies in the implementation. That's the place where we should focus, not in the statistic papers. They are just a starting point. And as a Finn, I'm proud to say that we have been able to move forward from the statistic paper into the implementation phase, which is the most important thing. And that needs sometimes hard work and stubborn people, because to push your government agencies forward is not that easy. Main focus areas in the implementation are, we have 74 items there. We did let all the flowers to grow freely, so all the ministries were able to put all the things they want to have in the implementation plan, and I don't think we will ever be able to implement them all, but they're all listed there. And now we focus on most important things, what is cybersecurity center, 24/7 information security operation in the government level, national or governmental security network, and encrypted data transfer and administration, police capabilities, and research and education programs, and in legislation. Challenges, I don't want to list them in details, but you know what the challenges are. The first challenge is in a small country is money, to get resources and good people for the government offices to work on the issues. But we have also normal challenges. Some organizations are not moving fast enough to implement the information society code. We used to have about 10 different laws covering the ICT communications area. Now we have one package, more than 350 paragraphs in that one. So it's a big package, but the one package to cover everything in this area, including the security area on the level of government, companies and enterprises. So it's a very good law in my thinking. But still, it has to be implemented. What have we done? Where have we been successful? We have established Cybersecurity Center. It's based on our CERT function. On top of that, we have implemented this plan, as I mentioned. We have a good research, training, education program. We have done established one innovation center in one of our cities together with the university and other institutes and defense forces. We have our business cyber cluster, about which you will hear more today here. We have just issued yesterday a report on intelligence gathering in the cyber domain, and you can imagine it's a very sexy report for the media. I was so happy to be here yesterday, not in Finland, because my phone was ringing. I'm sorry, I'm in Geneva, I can't answer your request. But it's a very important issue also, because without information gathering intelligence, there's no security. Public-private partnership, one of the most important things in Finland. And this is where you need to have a couple of words. One of them is trust. And the second one, no, it's actually two words, but it's win-win. It has to be win-win, there has to be trust, and there has to be good procedures to execute the public-private partnership. And then we also need international cooperation. Whatever I say about national planning is nothing without proper international cooperation and network. One thing which we have been able to create by the process is general knowledge and awareness of cybersecurity. And it's now in the media every single day and in the speeches of politicians. A couple of words about our beauty, which is the Finnish Communications Regulatory Authority's National Cybersecurity Center, NCSC. Of course, that's one of the key elements for us in the government level. I know that the business life lives their own life and they have their own systems. And that's why I must say that we have excellent internet service providers and companies who do good work in their own business area, cleaning up the networks, taking care of the malware and different kind of attacks. We have good laws to give them rights to act and also to guide them to do the business. And this is the result. We have one of the cleanest networks in the world. At the latest report, we were #1 in Microsoft's list. That means that something is done properly in Finland when it comes to networks. But of course, something always goes through. Then we talk about these very advanced attacks. And then we need to have a system for that. And there we have a network monitoring and early warning system in Finland called Havaro, which will be discussed in more details today. That's also one of the tools for us. Then, of course, the work is done mainly on the citizen, governmental or critical infrastructure players area. And they are the ones who are also to take the responsibility, and this is now done in a good way in Finland. So things are moving nicely. A couple of words about the recent law package, the intelligence and information gathering package we had in Finland. That's an issue where human rights, privacy and all the other issues, international law, EU regulation, national regulation. We have done a huge package of background work in 1 year in a cross-government group to understand where we are. And then that's why, in a way, I hate seminars, because you always learn something new. There's something else ongoing always, but you have to take the ones you see important for us. Benchmarking is one of the issues also in this one, as it was in strategy. Arto traveled through the European countries, US and other areas to gather information before we made our strategy. And for the legal framework concerning information gathering and intelligence, we benchmarked us with Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany and the Netherlands to have understanding how similar countries do business and what kind of legislation and lessons learned they have, and try to put things together in a proper way. But it's not easy. I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arto. If there is immediate reactions, we can take a couple of questions and then we move forward. Actually, the key here is what you said. So you are involving the whole society. The whole Finnish society is involved in cyber, and you are also trying to educate the whole nation, because they have to be to understanding. Okay, if any more immediate questions, so we can come back on these issues. And actually, it's much more beneficial to try to find solutions and not to blame anyone. Cyber is also a game changer in diplomatic world, because it's not anymore the size of the country. It's not anymore of the resources of the country. It's up to the knowledge if you want to be successful in the cyberspace. And therefore, as part of the implementation plan of the strategy, the Finnish MFA have appointed first cyber ambassador to Finland to look the cyber domain at the diplomatic level. And I'm very happy to give the floor you to Madam Marja Rislakki. Madam Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Aapo. I must say that when I got this presentation, the topic of the presentation, introduction of the role of cyber ambassador and the Finnish experience, it is something that I do have to, first of all, say a few words of the changes of the environment, but unfortunately then I'm going to repeat some of the words that have been already said here earlier today. We all know that we are living in increasingly high speed and global cyber domain, and it brings the states and the public sector, businesses, people ever closer together. And this development has been really huge. So if we think back of 20, 30 years, we lived in a totally different world. So digitalization, it has changed our understanding of time, of distances, of state borders, of state sizes. So cyberspace has really shrunken our globe. And when we have this new borderless digital world, we need new approaches when it comes to diplomacy too. So we can't live in the old world. We have to think and think somehow in a new way. This digital development, it has significantly fostered the well-being of people. It has given economic benefits, as we all know, and the potential there is still huge. It has improved social inclusion. It can help in democratization processes. It can give an easy access to the massive amount of information, just like that, if we have access to information for everybody. But at the same time, however, the vulnerability of our societies has increased in a striking manner that you just have to open the newspapers and you can read about different kind of cyber attacks or cyber incidents almost daily. So to get full benefits of all these positive possibilities of the digitalization, it is only possible if we can have trust in cyberspace. So we have to have adequate level of cybersecurity. We must make sure that we have equal access to use the benefits of digitalization for everybody. We have to respect the human rights in cyberspace, and here especially the freedom of speech and the right to privacy, and right to confidential information. So if I put it right, we have to have freedom online, we have to have right to privacy online, and we have to have security online. And somehow we have to balance all these three. To increase cybersecurity, cyber trust, and cyber resilience, these national cyber strategies are, of course, crucial ones. They are very much needed. But these national strategies alone cannot solve the challenges that are global. So what we need urgently is to enhance international cooperation and dialogue on responsible behavior in cyberspace. So it's of no surprise that these questions related to cyberspace have become more and more important topic in international foreign and security policies and new agenda items in many international, regional and bilateral meetings between the states. So this is the change of the world, and then why cyber ambassador? What cyber ambassador? What cyber ambassador is maybe a tricky question. I remember when I was appointed to this position, a friend of mine asked that, "Oh, cyber ambassador, where did you present your letter of credentials? To the internet?" Well, so there is maybe a little bit of explaining. But as Mr. Räty already mentioned, there is this Finnish cybersecurity national strategy. It has 10 strategic guidelines. And one guideline, number 6, recognizes the need to enhance international cooperation. And it reads in the strategy that strengthen national cybersecurity through active and efficient participation in the activities of international organizations and collaborative fora that are critical on cybersecurity. So the Ministry for Foreign Affairs wanted to answer from their part to fulfill this strategic guideline and of course to this rapidly increasing international discussion on cyberspace. And last June, they decided to establish a new post of cyber ambassador, and I was asked to take this position, probably because my background is in technology. But my work has nothing to do with technology. It's pure diplomatic task. I want to underline here that all the different ministries in Finland have their own responsibilities according to their competencies when it comes to cyber questions. And they have all their different international dialogues ongoing. For example, the Ministry of Defense is following actively international cyber defense questions. Ministry of Interior, they have fight against cybercrime, etc. But this has been a little bit fragmented. And what was needed when we looked at it in the Ministry for Foreign Affairs was that we really have to have somebody who looks the overall picture of all these cyberspace-related questions. If we think of the different dimensions of cyberspace, they are very much interlinked. When we discuss issues such as cybersecurity, the confidence-building measures, the internet governance, human rights and privacy protection, cyber capacity building, fight against cybercrime, cyber defense, or international norms and behavior in cyberspace, we have to make sure that the Finnish positions taken in different international fora, that they are coherent with each other, even though different officials from different ministries go to these international discussions. So I try to be this focal point. I try to now coordinate not only between the different departments and units within our own ministry, but also between the different ministries. When they go to international meeting, I want to make sure that the positions expressed are in line with one another and that they are in line with the Finnish foreign and security policy. Many questions concerning the cyberspace they are really foreign and security policy issues. If we talk about legislation and norms, international legislation and norms, if we talk about confidence building measures, human rights, capacity building, these are all the same questions that we are tackling in the physical world. And just like in the physical world, also in the cyberspace, these different questions, when they are looked by different states, they have different approaches. So the world is polarized here too. And if we want to increase mutual understanding, confidence and trust in cyberspace, between the states and other stakeholders, what to do? Of course, the answer is simple. We need international dialogue between the states and relevant other actors. So we need cyber diplomacy, and that's why we need maybe cyber ambassador who looks over this picture. My tasks in this area, my task is really try to follow the international cyber discussions, and I try to keep the different threats in my hand. It's a lot to demand from one woman, but at least I try to do my best in this area. But in addition to this, I feel that one of my responsibilities is to improve the awareness of the importance of cyber domain within the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, but also in Finland in general. So I have tried to participate in different conferences and seminars. I've been willing to give interviews. After this new post was established, the media was very interested, and of course that helped me in this task of raising the awareness. So I have only 6 months of experience in this field, and it may change, my job may change with time, but of course one thing is clear, is that we need this cyber diplomacy, we need constant dialogue between all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Marja. it's evident that international cooperation is one of the key areas if you want to be successful. And I guess we in Finland, we share very much the Swiss approach, which was expressed that cyber is an issue which should be tackled in every fora which have their own mandate. Cyber is attacking actually every international element and organization, so cyber diplomacy is definitely needed. Is there any burning questions you want to put? Yeah, there is one, so please.
How did you manage to break silos between different ministries? Because different ministries work with very different, foci and priorities, and I can imagine that this work is not easy to make it all coherent and to give it a sort of overall framework. Was it difficult for you, or was it quite natural after realizing the importance of cybersecurity as a theme?
Thank you. That was a very good question. Luckily, I wasn't the first one to have these interministerial meetings. Before I started in this position, the political director of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, she invited Director General level meetings 4 times a year, depending on the topics, and we called it exchange of information. But of course, at the same time, when we are discussing these issues, we can try to find a common position, and so far we have managed to do that. Of course, there may be some different ideas in different ministries, but we are always looking for responses in Finland, and I think that in this field too, we have managed to do quite well.
Thank you, Marja, and Arto wants to comment this as well, because I think there is a need for national cyber policy, and then it's easy to coordinate. Arto.
Just want to add here that this issue has been handled. The guidelines are coming from the governmental level, from the government's Foreign and Security Policy Committee, which has tasked us to make the paper, the strategy, and also has taken the strategy as a result of the work in their hands. So the guidelines come from there. So that gives us a governmental level guideline. And our body, the Foreign and Security Policy Cabinet Committee, has all those parties involved, the party leaders in fact, who are in the government. So that gives us a very strong support. And then the Security Committee, the State Secretary from the Foreign Ministry, who is in a position of Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, is also part of the Security Committee, has been doing the work from the beginning. So that gives us the cross-governmental access from the start to the end.
Okay, thank you. If there are not any burning questions, so we move forward. There's one, yeah, please.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Nigel Hickson, ICANN. Ambassador, I found that very interesting, and it reminds me of a conversation I recall in the European Commission, Commissioner Cruz, perhaps a couple of years ago, talking about cybersecurity and encouraging every member state to have a cybersecurity ambassador so that the whole issue of cybersecurity could go up the diplomatic agenda. I just wondered, in your position, if you're meeting with other European counterparts, or indeed wider than Europe, to try and encourage this fostering of cooperation and coordination. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good question again. Yes, within the European Union, we have a Friends of Presidency working group. It has 2 different gatherings. One is the cyber attaches placed in Brussels, and the other one is so-called capital level meetings. So we meet, let's say, twice per EU presidency, and I'm not the only cyber ambassador. In many European Union countries, they have recently nominated people, ambassador level people. Maybe they are usually called cyber coordinators, and then they are ambassadors, and probably Finland is the only one. No, Spain has a cyber ambassador. Yeah. that's Germany, France has. So we are becoming more and more. So we meet quite regularly then in these meetings.
So there is coming a network of cyber ambassadors. This is actually must be good for the global level. Okay, then we move forward in this point, and the table is so short that we couldn't take all the stakeholders from Finland because, as Arto explained, we are involving the whole Finnish society. So we had to select whom to invite to speak here today, and then I just would like to take one sentence from the vision, which Arto referred to. It said that Finland wants to be one of the forerunners at the cyberspace 2016. And when we got this mandate and this requirement for the government, we were considering that this might be difficult. It's a huge challenge. And then we were wondering where the hell is the best knowledge in Finland. And actually in cyberspace, it is at the private sector, because they are acting globally, they are doing business, they have to be best in the world, otherwise no one is coming to Finland and asking for cyber capabilities. So that's why we very quickly realized that traditional Finland is having a very good private-public partnership for other areas, but in cyber this is really much more decisive. And then again, part of the implementation and the strategy process, I call it Finnish Cybersecurity Cluster, but officially it's Finnish Information Security Cluster was founded just to make the private sector more effective in the cyberspace. And I'm happy to have two speakers from the private sector. First, Timo Kotilainen. He is the founding father of the cybersecurity cluster, and he is the current chairman of the cybersecurity cluster. This is very unique model. This is again made in Finland. This is good for us, but you can perhaps pick up some principles from it. And it's, as I said, it's also part of the idea that cyber is more an opportunity than a challenge. But I'm happy to hand over to Timo, and Timo will explain first about the cluster, and then we move forward to one of the key areas where where private sector is playing a role in the next presentation. But Timo, you have to follow.
Thank you, Aapo. I'm really honored to be here in front of this distinguished audience, and this is really also a challenge. You know, I'm coming from the business sector, the private sector, like very many times said here. Our business jargon is a little bit different, so I have to now think how to translate my message so that it will be fit into those areas and terms that you are used to use. When listening to the morning sessions, I think and thinking, where do we fit in a way? What are the terms and what are the phenomena important that you have been discussing? Definitely one area is this capacity building. So many times used, and there was pointing out that what's the concretism in that. And maybe one thing that we have been doing here, that although we have the modules in place, we have the companies, we have the individuals, etc. in the country, but how to link them. First of all, how to group them, and then how to link them to something which is an agenda, being it a national level strategy or something else. And I think the engagement, alignment of interests, alignment of view in a broader scope, that's very important. And the trust, like Ambassador Rislakki pointed very well out. I think that is quite crucial when we are talking about capabilities so deeply in certain individuals and companies, so that they will hand over and openly discuss those. And very much relates to win-win-win opportunity, so that the society, civil society, the companies operating in this area, but also the individuals who are the key in the cyber capabilities. There's a lot of knowledge, a lot of capabilities which are in the heads and control of individuals. So this is a challenge for the industry. I think it is really a challenge for the whole system. But this was quite a long introduction to the topic, so let's move forward. And I'm trying to a little bit elaborate on what we have done. When we are talking about private sector, I'm narrow it down from the information security, cyber security companies and organizations point of view. It's not the total private sector, but it's quite important when we think about these topics we have on the table. So it is an association, naturally not for profit. It was founded 2012. I've been the chairman since that. We have something like 50 member companies. Also our National Research Institute, which from the 1st of January is also a company, which simplifies our slides in that sense. We want to act as a national hub for the public-private partnerships. That wasn't the initial target, but it has become one of the most important things. The main idea is support the growth and the well-being of the companies. So we are selfish, of course, coming from the industry. But then, on the other hand, the cyber resilience, really making the world a better place for all of us, and that is very deeply related to the individuals and also the company's missions. There's a lot of this kind of idealism, which I would really like to point out that is important to understand also from the authorities' point of view, how to nurture, how to manage that. So that is also something that where we have a broader look. And then we have also formed a company which in a way do from commercial basis these kind of actions outside of Finland, but I will come back to it. We have a number of member companies. So I'm not going to go in details in this, but many of them are tiny, thinking from the global perspective, very precise on the knowledge and capabilities, and some of them are global, having important subsidiaries in Finland, like many of the names like Deloitte, etc. over there, which are totally global companies. But our idea is that they would concentrate the information security and cybersecurity knowledge bases and practices into Finland. This is from our marketing slides and how we see that companies and organizations coming from Finland in a way are good, they're better than maybe from somewhere else. There are 7 points, and one of those is the well-functioning public-private partnership, which of course in a way it's not like I pointed out, it's not only in our area, there's a foundation laid in the society which is wider, and we are just building on that. The basic idea, I guess, the motivation for public-private partnership is that, according to our estimations, 80% of the capabilities, competencies, etc., they reside on the private side. Authorities do have, when we talk about military and offensive and defensive side, and we talk about cybercrime, of course they have the special knowledge and capabilities which are not at all applicable, and we are not competing with those in the private sector. But we build also components, products and services to fulfill those needs. Academia is important, and target organizations, like we discussed about the network operators. The operators are important in many ways. They are producing sometimes services to cyber security to organizations out of them, where they're not only to their own organization but to other organizations, but also they are implementing things on their platforms, and that is crucial from the society point of view, that there are data centers, ISPs, operators, etc., who have to implement something, and they are not typically having the tools, the software, the capabilities. They are using us, the cybersecurity companies, to do that. Is this area increasingly important? Is this in cyber domain more important than in some other areas? I think it is. It is more important than other fields of life, but it's also increasingly important. we are the implementation vehicle, like I said, and we are also the platform to whom to implement the cybersecurity features. But the world is changing rapidly. We are going towards internet economy, where the value is not anymore in the physical world. We're thinking about cars, we're thinking about Internet of Things, industrial internet, etc. So the value is moving towards software. It's moving to new entities, which are also from the industry point of view, where they are somewhere else. It can be somewhere in the cloud. It can be where totally new players disrupting. We, of course, can use Google as an example of disrupting many industries. So in that sense, the game is getting very serious from national level players and for industries as well. They are really looking towards the next area where the information security and securing that software value is very highly important. From our point of view, from our public-private partnership point of view, I think we are facing challenges. Of course, all areas are facing challenges. But like pointed out earlier in the morning session, the growing maturity of the exploit industry, the cyber crime industry, that is becoming more and more commercialized. It's easier and easier to buy services, to buy exploits, etc., and so forth. And it will be more and more available to wider group of people. And the digitalization of the society, businesses, etc., it increases the so-called attack surface. Right? There's more and more opportunities to get in. We have, from our governmental side, e-governmental side, we are going to implement the Estonian X-Road model, which is a great model where all the data reserves are stored in there, and there's an open interface, etc. It's a great idea, but of course creates also a cybersecurity problem. And the competition of resources will increase. Right? We are fighting for the same competencies, the resources, the order of magnitude of those, the training programs, etc., have to be planned together. And also the alignment of preparedness, it's utmost important, because in the industries like let's say mechanical engineering, they have to now deal with the software industry, cloud service providers, etc. They have to go beyond their normal industry barriers. So have the society do. So the preparing for cyber attacks becomes more and more complex issue. We have quite a unique and good approach in that. We have a center of, I have to now check it, Emergency Supply Agency, which I call it's more center of preparedness, who makes the cyber preparedness planning not mandatory. It's volunteer based. It gives models and also a maturity model, so how different industries and 2,000 companies and organizations belonging to that organization, how are they prepared for attacks and so forth. It gives you guidance, but of course the implementation is still the hard part. And then the legislation and regulation, which definitely it's not living with the speed of internet economy. So coping with the speed of changes, etc. It is a growing challenge. And the complexity won't go away. It will just increase, and the gap in understanding, it is widening. But we have to live with that. About the private sector, how does it look like? First of all, the annual volume globally, that's 60 billion euros. It grows nicely, 9 to 10%. 50% of that, it's coming from the services, which are produced locally, typically. And so, although there are softwares like Ari will talk later, which you can purchase, there's a lot of things that have to be done locally, and also that there's a lot of competencies and resources needed locally. US-based companies are having a great role here, so we are coming from different angle, which says that I try to utilize our unique position in that. From our experience, point of view, what can we say? One very important thing is to bring the experts together. Engage all the parties, build a community. It's important for the individuals and for the companies to understand and have a broader view. The people and the companies are challenged, and they really like and love challenges and new opportunities. The people, the so-called white hat hackers who are in the core of this industry, they really like challenges. And the more you bring them new challenges and in front of those, they are happy to work almost freely. And sharing the situation awareness, preparedness planning, incident management, and build a border-crossing feedback loop. That's extremely important that the private sector and we as a companies, and also those companies who have to implement, they get feedback. What's happening? So what was the learning? There was an attack. How did the counteract acted, and what was the learning from that? That is something which is many times missing. And these resources, the private companies, which many times are tiny and they are not maybe fulfilling all the criteria which are set for the public procurement. How you make sure in your countries that the individual capabilities and small capabilities in small companies, how those are utilized so that they will be becoming a strength for the whole society. And also that creating programs and solutions which are going after the real problems. There's quite much academic studies in this area and research, but that is also always based on the history, and the history is many times very irrelevant when we're talking about things evolve with the speed of internet. This is something that I will conclude now, maybe.
Okay, thank you, Timo. We can take immediate questions too, and then we continue. Please, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you for presentation. My name is Nikolai from Moldovan Mission. So I would have maybe two questions. The first one to the first panelist is that there was a lot said about the internet security and the cyber security, but then it is always a problem when it comes to how you would define what is the internet crime, because this is where the international community is not yet clear and there is no clear definition of that. So in some countries they would go for the measuring the amount of the damage. So it could be from, I don't know, $25 or $30 that it's, I mean, if you damaged a company or an individual, then it could be qualified as a crime. Or where's the line between crime and hooliganism? So it would be interesting how you measure that and when you start to act or react in terms of the crime. And the second thing is that, I have a Nokia made in Hungary. So can I hope that this unit, which is somehow, a Finnish company, does have the standards of those cybersecurity standards that we are talking of? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you want Timo to respond, or do you
maybe
the legal aspects? I mean, this is clear. Do you want to say it's clear that the legislation is a key issue, and of course in cyberspace, when there is no global legislation which could solve the problem, you have to modify your national legislation, and of course there have to be clear understanding and definition what is illegal in the cyberspace at the national level. But then, of course, it's difficult to separate when it goes to the global level. So legislation is a key issue, and I don't want to go to the details. But was there something, Timo, you wanted to comment on this, or?
Well, about this terminal issue, you raised a good problem, and which is that these devices are not that safe, but I think you just have to count on the market forces, and there are many new initiatives coming to that market segment. So no regulation is strong enough and not detailed enough to make them really safe and secure. But I do believe that market forces will take care of that.
Yeah, and there will be new solutions. And actually, to just sum up a little bit the role of the private sector, it's actually good that the Finnish companies are so small, because they are much more flexible, and they are much more enthusiastic to develop something new and to be innovative, and that's good for the government and that's good for the country. It creates new innovation and new solutions. And actually in cyber there is two key areas where we are now going to focus as a final point here. First is the situation awareness. As it has been said many times, if you don't know what is happening in cyberspace, you are not able to prepare. And the other thing is the vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities, they are the nuclear weapons of the cyberspace. The one who knows the national vulnerabilities, it's going to be the winner. And then it's up to the nation, if you want to figure out where your vulnerabilities are as part of your risk assessment, or are you just waiting to see where the attacks will be directed in the future. And Codenomicon is a company which is providing for the Finnish Cybersecurity Center the system how to create the situational awareness for the whole country at the cyber domain. And also they have been successful figuring out vulnerabilities. Many of you remember this Heartbleed. It was actually Google took quite much the credit, but actually the tools and the company who was behind is Codenomicon. So they are really good in this business. They know how to figure out the vulnerabilities. And if you want to make a national cyber risk assessment, or a risk assessment on your critical infrastructure, for instance, then you have to find the vulnerabilities. Otherwise, there is no value on your risk assessment. So I'm happy to turn to Ari Knuuti. He is our representative from Codenomicon. And
10-minute session reserved for the Codenomicon presentation, which should be a fairly technical presentation about the public-private partnership and how to enable nation states to create a cyber defense capabilities. Part of that 10 minutes will be spent now on the technical difficulties when I try to open the presentation. Codenomicon. Yeah, se meni kaatu kokonaan. So the Codenomicon, I will say some words first about Codenomicon, and then while we are recovering the presentation, I might be able to go to the exact presentation, which is more or less to talk about how the information flow can enable creating the efficient public-private partnership. So the information flow actually is, from my perspective, who sees the world from the commercial point of view and from the customer's point of view. So the information flow, correct information needs to be in a correct place at the correct time. That is the guiding rule of creating efficient public-private partnerships. So it is about the information flow rather than about the legislation or about the legislative processes that the governments are more or less like pushing for the IT infrastructure. This is my personal view. It follows our company view, but I think that it's in principle in parallel with the Finnish delegation's view. Good. For the first, I would like to thank the organizers, Geneva Internet Platform, for enabling this possibility for Finnish model to be presented, and I would like to ask thank you for the Finnish delegation for getting the invitation for the event as a commercial entity. This is a sign of Finnish very functionable public-private partnership, how it works and what is the essence of the public-private partnership. If these ladies and gentlemen here wouldn't invite us on this side of the table into this type of events, then the public-private partnership discussion would be rhetorical discussion. So therefore it is very important that we got the invitation into the event, and we are very grateful for that. That is the first step how to create a public-private partnership. That works. Good. My presentation won't be a technical. What do we see behind me? This is a rhetorical question. What we see over there is one of the worst software security breaches over the time. So this is actually what the legislation, this is actually what the governmental procedures are trying to tackle. A coding error which is a root cause or to an extent enabler for an attacker to take benefit of a weakness. So what we see here is a very typical coding error that caused one software component to be vulnerable. This specific vulnerability was in a component which was very widely deployed in an internet infrastructure, and therefore it caused the internet infrastructure to be vulnerable very badly, very severely last year. This specific vulnerability is a vulnerability called Heartbleed. Heartbleed was founded around April by two companies, by Google and by Codenomicon, simultaneously without knowing about each other's efforts. The very interesting factor on the finding of this vulnerability is that at the Google side, the individual who found the vulnerability is a very, very capable technical individual called Neelan Mehta. Me and our technical colleagues appreciate him as one of the internet superstars when it comes to the cybersecurity. So he is a absolute close to the internet divine forces. On Codenomicon side, this specific vulnerability was found by one of our junior technical developers who's not necessarily known as a close to the divine in internet security. What is important on this story is that with the right tools, with the right technologies in place, the very specific knowledge of creating the software security to the critical infrastructure can be enhanced. So Codenomicon does work with the technological area of enhancing our customers in different ways to find software vulnerabilities like this. On the other side of our business, we create situational awareness systems. For example, highly appraised Finnish Cyber Defense Center is mostly relying on Codenomicon technologies when it comes to for them creating a nationwide cybersecurity situational awareness to guide, to monitor and to guide the improvement, continuous improvement of the cyber space in Finland. So we are working on these both sides. Of course, I'm a salesman. I claim that we are mastering and enabling this and that. There's some international statistics to support my saying. So Finland has been among the cleanest networks in the internet since many years. I would rather say that since 2009, because that was the time when we started deeply working with the Finnish CERT and enabling them with the automated incident identification and automated incident clearing systems. So Finland truly is one of the cleanest places, and therefore it is a place to look up. Finnish model is working very well in Finland, but nowadays it is also being adapted more broadly. UK, for example, on their civil side of cyber defense is relying very heavily on the Finnish model, on Finnish technological approach, that how Finland has done it. Austria is utilizing the same approach. Small countries like Iceland fully relying on this approach. very positive development in India, in Singapore, Mexico, Canada. On monthly basis, we start development with new nation states. So this approach is not only, even though that we speak about the Finnish model, it is not only been applied in Finland, it's been applied in many countries already, and there's new countries popping up into the line constantly. So some very shortly I will talk about some things which I think that are at the essence of creating the efficient public-private partnership. As it has been many times indicated and underlined in this today's session, that the public-private partnership is the very root cause or the root enabler for the healthy critical infrastructure. I would say that every cybersecurity strategy which has been written and published during the recent years underlines the information sharing and the public-private partnership as one of the key factors on being successful. Information sharing and creating a situational awareness. Those both are in Mr. Räty's presentation, creating situational awareness and creating collaborative cooperation as the key elements on implementing the cybersecurity strategy efficiently. Nobody is actually saying that how it should be done. That is a problem. Everyone talks about that this is the way to go, but nobody says that how to go there. So I claim that in Finland we have been able to, or with the Finnish approach, not the model as the Mr. Permanent Secretary was underlying, not the model, but the approach, I claim that this very fundamental challenge has been solved. So we have created a model which is a proxy cleaner model, fairly simple model, where proxy is in Finland a CERT Finland. It has a mandate and responsibility from the governmental side to create a safe and enable continuous development on creating safe and secure critical infrastructure. So there's a clear mandate, clear dedicated organization to work on the topic. They are the proxy, and then the cleaners are actually the critical infrastructure organizations around. So the proxy is, this is how the Finnish model has been so effective, is that they have been, Finnish CERT and the nowadays Cyber Defense Center is collecting lots of information from different various sources, enriching that information, putting that information into the right context, in a right place, in a right time to the Finnish security community, which then is enabled by the correct information to take action, to take the cleaning action. So the proxy cleaner model at the very simplest way is working very effectively in Finland in order to allocate and to act as a command and control center for the people who are actually doing the cleaning work itself. And through this type of work, through this type of cooperation, Finland has been able to reach one of the cleanest networks in the world. So it is truly a working approach, very simple approach, very prudent approach, because the right information at the right time is very prudent in terms of people not being able to say that this is not my responsibility or it is not important. Because if there's a clear evidence that organization, whether it's an ISP or a power grid organization, that they have a problem, then they need to take action. Correct information is enabling Finnish cybersecurity cleaning process. Very shortly about our approach, I will be here around if you have some questions on private basis. If you have some public questions, I think that we have a minute or two.
Yeah, we have still time for questions, but perhaps we give a big hand to Ari and Timo. And of course, when there is only 5 million people in Finland, so we need automated systems. So that's the lesson to be learned from Ari, if a little bit simplified. But now we are happy to open the floor. So please.
Michel Quillet, former Deputy Director of Europol, where I was tasked to set up the European Cybercrime Center to fight cybercrime. So what I would like briefly to tell you, it's I fully share your comment, your statements about the importance of the public-private partnership. Taking the example of the killing last week in Paris, a meeting was held on Sunday morning by some Minister of Interior at the European level, and about how to fight against radicalization. And the main issue they saw is to cooperate with the providers. And how it will be, it already started, as you know, and you know that, but they choose to say and to stress the importance of the cooperation. And you see, and for me, it's only to say that you are fully right to insist, and it's what we did in the Geneva Internet Conference, where you set up a panel. So very important, and I think it's a big part of the solution. It's only what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you for this comment. We move forward. We take the next one. We take all of them in a row and then answers. There are 3 questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Michel Chevalier, ICT4Peace. I have 2 very different questions. One is regarding this proxy cleaning, or let's say in the spirit of it. Does hate speech has to be reported? Is there any provision regarding hate speech or call to violent acts? This is my first question. The second one regards public procurement. Is in the policy security framework that you've been presenting this morning, anything regarding public procurement, selections of companies, or maybe recruitment of civil servants? Thank you.
Okay, we take the next one. I think they're all there in the same corner, so please.
My name is Madeleine Scherp. I'm from Health and Environment Program, NGO, also working for a company. I would like to know if this global governance can identify people who is making cybercriminality, for example, take the name of each person, take this, what is doing exactly in the space of conferences, or also in another place where we can meet, because sometimes we have some confusion. Some people, they can be identified as NGO or as someone else, and nobody is there to control which is each person exactly attending a conference as United Nations everywhere. So how can you make a security for the people who are attending conferences in United Nations? So this space, I think there's a failure, and it's time to take into account the security of people attending the participating at the conferences of international organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last one, please.
Thank you, Martin Euchner from the ITUT. My question goes to Mr. Knuuti from Codenomicon, also about the proxy. And I'm trying to understand, you said the Finnish CERT is acting as a proxy. And how does this CERT fit into the, governmental or private side? Is it operated, owned by government, or is it operated and owned by private sector? And what does it mean regarding trust? Because security information of all sorts is a very sensitive issue. And not everybody is willing to share security incidents and all these kind of effects for all sorts of, security reasons, national security reasons including. So how does that work in the private-public partnership? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arto. Perhaps I can respond to the international organization team because it's I have the liberty being here in Geneva. So actually, everyone here in this area who wants to take care of the cybersecurity, you have to have a policy. What is the UN policy paper on cybersecurity? Then you make a risk assessment, and then based on the risk assessment, you create the solution. And then you can turn to the companies and see what should be done. But if the organizations, they don't have their own IT security or cyber policy or whatever they want to call it, then they don't care about the security. And then, as Arto said, the security have to be part of the overall security of the organization. So this is, you can copy the same principles which can be utilized at the national level, they can be taken to the organizations, but it's just up to that. There have to be the understanding in the organizations that this is needed. Otherwise you just rely on your good luck. But I turn to Timo now. I hope I could answer your question, but Ari was next one. Yeah.
So there's two questions which I would like to answer. Maybe I focus on the second one, that how the information sharing is enabled. So key part of this model or this approach is that actually the information is being shared in great masses. So but what is the information exactly that what is being shared is that what is bad. Information that is being shared is the information about badness, not about my own weaknesses. Companies or organizations which get hacked, they are embarrassed because of they got hacked. So they are not there on the second day after the hack that we want to share this information, that how badly we were prepared, how badly we were managing the situation itself. So that is a very hard, even a psychological process to get people and organizations involved on that type of information sharing. But what is easy to share is that what is the badness that we see in the network. It can be as simple that there's a spam, there seems to be an evil spam machine behind this IP address. And that information can be a significant information. Some of these cleaning organizations who are fighting the day-to-day cleaning war, so to say. So that type of a small piece of information can be vital for some organization, and that creates then the community, and that is the fundament of creating the community trust. And based on that is a inertia, process inertia creates the trust, and then the more deeper information exchange starts to build up on top of that.
Okay, Timo.
Just to add a minor thing, in our cybersecurity center, so there's a contract, there's a ruling how this is done when they put their detectors to the organization which are then protected. So what kind of information is gathered, how that information is utilized, etc., how that is handled to law enforcement authorities, etc., which is not done. And so this is quite carefully stipulated in that contract. It's working. And also vice versa. So also when you are protecting an organization, so what kind of rules and blacklists, etc., what kind of functionality you are embedded in that device, that is also a secret which is then managed by the cybersecurity center, and the organization utilizing that service don't know that. So there's quite much of thinking behind it, and of course through evolvement it has worked to be shown to be working quite nicely. But trust is in a way the fundamental element there, on openness and transparency and dialogue.
Okay, one final comment.
There's a question concerning the personnel and procurement. And I don't know if I fully understood the question, but in procurement, when it comes to governmental level, one of the major issues in today's world is auditing the company and the product behind it. If they are not audited and there's no trust, it's difficult to procure sensitive systems. And here we come to an area where the price is not always that matters. And this is difficult for the governmental actors, as you all know. When the politicians are criticized that they bought more expensive product they were supposed to buy, and they happen to know the CEO of the company, which happens to be in Finland always the case because this is a small country. So it's a very complicated area, and here we have to very carefully plan our process for procurement that we have on safe ground. For the personnel, the only comment I give on this one is that how we're going to be secure that the government gets good personnel to handle these issues. It's a very tricky question because unfortunately these guys here on the other end of the table, they pay better than we do.
Okay,
so
thanks.
It's complicated, but I want one more.
Still one.
Here we come to the education and education. And you have to put a lot of efforts in your universities and institutes to make sure that you have enough well-educated people to find also, to get people also to government business. And government seems to be quite still, even though we pay little, quite interesting place for youngsters to work in.
Okay, I think it's enough from our side, and now I turn to Jovan.
Thank you, Apo, for moderating this impressive panel. And if I didn't have a duty to communicate a few things, I would finish on this line, excellent tweet, education, education, education. Probably is one of the underlying theme of our discussion. But there were quite a few questions. Some of you used the possibility of tweeting and sending me emails, and we got the questions how to share some of the PowerPoints. I guess that we can do it. What is the Microsoft rank list of the clean countries where we can get it? We'll send the link. Suggestion to us to organize together with the ambassador and other cyber ambassador workshop and study how countries are, ministries of foreign affairs are accessing this issue. Suggestion after Ari's presentation, what is the interplay between technical solutions and policy solution based on the studies. Therefore, these are just some ideas. The list is long, but with this question that we will answer to the group, you can also leave your email. We'll create a mailing list to communicate to you in the follow-up. I would like to thank Finnish Permanent Mission, Finnish authorities, our panelists, you for excellent question and comments, for the really enriching discussion on our first Cybersecurity Day. Thank you very much.